Welcome to the Focolare Word of Life podcast for March 2023. My name is Nick Cianforani. The Word of Life is a phrase chosen from Scripture each month and shared around the world, and that we're all invited to live. The experiences that we're about to listen to in this episode relate to the Scripture phrase, "Live as children of light." For the fruit of the light is found in all that is good and right and true. Taken from Ephesians chapter 5, verse 8 through 9. It's easy to get lost in the dark corners of the world, especially when we are getting bombarded with the many examples that we encounter through a media that gives us the sense of brokenness in much of society. We need not look very far to find the suffering, anxiety, and loneliness that surrounds us. Amidst all of this, we are invited to be a light that transforms the world from that darkness. Christ gave us the way to do that when he said, "Love one another as I have loved you." This month's Word of Life can be a boost to help in becoming children of light. In today's episode, Diane Gregory from Atlanta tells us about a beautiful experience where many people join together in a chain of love and of light as providence comes her way. In the second, Claire Yzaguirre from California, together with her husband John, share how they try to be a beacon of light for couples that struggle in their marriage. In the third and final experience, Nino Fattore from Denver, Colorado, tells us how he helped his work colleague get through a difficult time during his illness. Welcome, Diane. I'm so delighted that you could join us today.
Gosh, I'm really happy to be here with you, Nick.
It's good to have you. So before you begin, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, as Nick said, my name is Diane. Originally from Indiana. I'm a Hoosier. But I have recently moved to Atlanta at the very end of November, and I'm just enjoying my first months here.
Diane, you have an interesting and lovely experience to share with us.
Actually, it's a little unusual because it's about a piano and how it brought many people together in a chain of love and also of light, like the Word of Life comments this month. So it all started a little over a month ago as we were preparing to move into a new house. I shared my dream to have a piano in this new house because there's just something about a piano that brings people together and has a way of creating family, right, Nick?
Absolutely.
So to my joy, that desire received a super great response and support from everyone. Our stipulation, however, and this is pretty challenging, was that we find a free piano. We started getting the word out, asking if anyone knows of someone who was looking for a home for their piano. A couple weeks ago, as I was having my evening conversation with Jesus before calling it a night, I felt as if he was saying to me, "Diane, you're asking everyone else for a piano. Why haven't you asked me?" I said, "Oh my gosh, you're right, Jesus. I'm sorry about that." So I said, "Okay, Jesus, can you please find a piano for us, for our home in the next couple of days?"
Wow, that's quite a courageous request, Diane.
But I felt it from the heart, so I did it. Well, the next day, I received a text from my friend Karen, who was just finishing lunch with a colleague. Turns out that Elizabeth, her colleague, has been looking quite some time for someone to give her Steinway grand piano to. It has been in the family for over 100 years. Her father was a concert pianist. Her grandfather was a concert pianist, and the piano actually was her grandma's. So it's been in the family since the late 1800s. Can you imagine when Karen texted me? I was just so amazed. You could see the smile on my face. And I said, Jesus' immediate response to my prayer, but in such a grand way. I could never have dreamed of playing on a piano of this caliber. Little did I know that God's plan was bigger than that. Beautiful as it was, we all realized, and I, maybe for last, had to admit that a 7-foot piano just would not fit in our new home. And with that came the light and the excitement in my heart to understand that I'd have to give up this piano and instead become the intermediary to get that piano to the perfect person, hopefully the one I thought God was directing me to. This is where my new acquaintance with Grace, my sister's friend, comes in. Grace was telling me of one of her piano students who was exceptionally talented, and how once every blue moon, a prodigy student comes her way. I called Grace and asked her if her student has a decent piano. She was ecstatic. It was incredible. She almost like screamed on the phone when I suggested that the grand piano could go to her student. Turns out that this young girl was playing on one of those digital pianos, and you know how the touch is different on those pianos.
Yes, absolutely.
And it was greatly compromising her touch, and she was preparing for an audition for a scholarship and summer workshop in Carnegie Hall. So she will now have her very own grand piano to practice on. Her parents were delighted, and they want to surprise her with the piano.
That is so amazing.
So I got back on the bandwagon for our piano. I still need to find one for us. And in a day and a half, we found a beautiful free piano through the deacon at our parish. 2 weeks ago, on the day of our move, the piano also arrived thanks to good, strong friends who engineered the transport with perfection, which was an essential link that made it all possible. Well, is the story over yet? Nope. Now it was time to find a piano tuner, and I got 4 quotes, all starting at $200. I had already pinpointed one that I liked when Grace's piano tuner returned my call. Turns out that he says, Diane, I'm sorry that it's taken me, I haven't gotten right back to you, but I just lost 2 members of my family, my brother and my brother-in-law. And we had a deep and beautiful conversation near the end of the call when I asked how much he charges. And after he told me, he said, Diane, I may not even charge you. Sometimes I do that. When Terry came to tune our piano last week, I had bread baking in the oven. After 3 hours meticulously repairing and tuning the beautiful piano, he packed up his toolkit, looked at me and said, "You owe me a loaf of bread." I thanked him graciously, and he said he was doing this for his brother who had just passed away. He would have been happy. So now we're waiting to fix a day to have him and his wife over for dinner to continue this friendship. This all taught me to continue surfing God's wave. Maybe he has something much bigger in store than I could ever see. And it's so much fun to see how things unfold much differently than I ever imagined. Once again, thank you, God, and may these words never dry up in my heart, for you truly are with us every moment of every day.
Thank you so much, Diane. I really enjoyed listening to your experience, and I look forward to coming to try out your piano.
Okay, it's there waiting for you.
Take care, Diane.
So thanks for having me, Nick, and many greetings for everyone who's listening.
Welcome, Claire. Thank you for joining our podcast today.
Hi, Nick. It's great to be with you. It was wonderful chatting with you right before the audio because we are like brother and sister, even though we have not physically ever met, but we know each other. And you know my husband, Dr. John Yzaguirre, very well.
That's right, Claire. Please give John my greetings. And how did the two of you meet?
John and I met in 1983, and it was God who brought us together and started a magnificent adventure. Now we're celebrating almost 37 years of marriage.
How wonderful, Claire. Thanks for sharing that. And we're all ears now to listen to your experience.
We've been teaching the dynamics of unity in our clinical practice as well as in our educational ministries out at the churches and our conferences for 30-some years. And it's always new and fresh. And the feedback that we get, and I thought, when you asked me to come and kind of share a few practical examples, from my own practice and my work with couples, I instantly thought of this older couple who heard us a while ago at one of our parishes here locally. I was blown away because this couple in their late 70s, oh my goodness, maybe early 80s, and we get multi-generations in our talks. He, very quiet throughout the whole workshop. And when we're giving these talks, we can see so much going on with each couple. You know, the wheels are going. And he had caught my eye early on in this talk that we were giving to, I don't know, maybe 50 couples in this particular parish hall. So he raises his hand and he says, I don't have a question, but I want to tell you guys that we have been married for many, many years. And he turns to his wife. He says, we have been married many, many years. But it is not until today that I learned what true love is and how to live it. Blew me away to hear this beautiful couple just share, because I think what he was responding to, and I think this is the beauty of the charism of mutual love, and also our life work of spelling it out in very practical ways that are infused psychological skills that are easy to understand, but also how it's like our hands. The psychological is one hand, but our faith seamlessly woven allows us to fly deeper. And I think this is what he and his wife were deeply resonating with, because, you know, people hear psychological skills all the time, but it's the integration that is so refreshing and inspiring. And so I have always later, you know, probably about a year or so later, he died. And he was suffering from, we later learned, multiple illnesses. It was cancer that ultimately got him in the end. So they're probably in the early 80s. But the wife and I have talked since then, and it was so beautiful for them to experience this deep love at the end of their marital journey. It just still brings a tear to my eye when I instantly thought of them, and I think, you know, this is so cool to hear from the old ones as well as the young ones. Another couple that comes very quickly to my mind is a couple I was just working with last week. After 22 years, 3 kids, really struggling. And, you know, we get couples in that are kind of coming in on fumes. And after several meetings of working together on clearing the blaming and the judgmentalism, the hurt that, you know, couples just throw at each other left and right, to just clear a space to just stop and listen to each other and to start understanding each other. But it was so beautiful at the end of a session last week where they got up and they spontaneously hugged each other, which is just stunning, and then faced me and said, thank you, Claire, for being with us at this moment in our lives, because this really is a last-ditch effort.
Yes, and it's edifying to see how you brought light into the lives of these couples, Claire.
And you know, that word of life from Ephesians 5:8-9 says, once you were full of darkness, but now I want you to live as people of the light. And I think that's so huge, because we can go to the dark side so quickly in an instant, you know, with a grudge or a judgment or a criticism. And so I encourage, as John and I renew our Lenten vows of fasting from resentment and feasting on the merciful love of God and being the merciful love of God, this is an express road to becoming people of light.
It has been such a gift to have you with us today, Claire. And please tell our listeners where they can find a copy of your book.
Yes, we have our marriage book called Thriving Marriages, and the Spanish translation is called Casados y Felices. And people always say, oh, you could be married and happy? And we go, yep. And those are from our beautiful New City Press publishers, and you can order it through them directly or get it off Amazon. You know, you can get it all over the place. And make sure you get the second edition, because we kind of overhauled one of the chapters.
Absolutely. You can find Claire and John's books and MP3 talks on their website, thrivingfamilies.com. So Claire, please give my regards to John.
He's in our counseling office right now as we speak, but he sends his warm love too.
Wonderful. Thank you, Claire.
You are so welcome. Bye-bye.
Hello, Nino. It's really great having you with us today.
Oh, thanks, Nick. I'm very grateful for asking for my experience.
So, Nino, before you share your lovely experience, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Originally, I'm from Naples, Italy, and I came here in 1996. I'm doing software for now for medical equipment, but I've been in the communication field for many years before that. I have two children, Rosemary and Abiel, and I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Thank you, Nino. And now we're anxious to listen to your experience.
When I was starting working here in Broomfield, Colorado, my supervisor told us about one of our teammates at work who had prostate cancer. His name is Doug. I thought to myself, how could I help him? It seemed natural for me to go and ask him if I could do anything for him. Can I drive you to where you have to your therapy? I asked. He asked me if I could call him every morning at 6:30 so that he would not be late for his therapy appointments. It was a bit early for me, but I set my alarm every morning and then called Doug. I did this for 35 days. On the last day of his treatment, he invited me to go with him so that afterwards we could go to a restaurant for a very good breakfast. I was happy since I felt that he was trying to love me back. For some time, I had started a special diet, and because of this, I was tempted to tell him that I could not go to the restaurant. But then I thought it was more important to continue to love him by accepting to go over keeping to my diet. I accepted his invitation. Completed the treatment, he drove to the famous restaurant, but it was closed. So let's do it another time, and we go just for a coffee. I thought God always finds a solution. Doug became my friend, and he started to come into my office and tell me about different things. He was Mormon, but he didn't find what he was looking for. I remember that I told him that the most important commandments Jesus gave to us was love God and love your neighbor, and then to listen to him, to see really what God will want for him. One day, he came to my office and asked me if I knew a Catholic priest, since he wanted to go back to the Catholic faith. It did not take long for me to set up a lunch with the priest. It was the starting point to go back to his original creed. I do not know what happened next, but I know that I started to see Doug at 7:30 a.m. Sunday Mass. Another time, he had a problem with his knee, so he had to have some kind of procedure, and so he asked me to be with him to the hospital so I could drive him back to his house. He could have asked one of his old friends, but I think he felt really loved, so that was easy for him to ask that to me. The friendship with Doug continues even if I work for another company and he's retired.
Thank you for this beautiful experience, Nino. I could see the fruits of having loved Doug with the light of God's love. So best wishes for your work and for all you're doing.
Thanks, Nick.
So thank you for joining us today. I hope you have been inspired by the wonderful stories shared. I look forward to being with you again next month. To listen to a reflection and a commentary on the Word of Life, just go to the previous episodes of this podcast. I invite you to join me each month for new episodes. You can also read additional experiences in the Living City magazine. Please consider making a donation to Focolare Media so that we can continue producing inspiring podcasts. Visit give.focolare.us. That's give.focolare.us. focolare.us, and look for the Focolare Media tab. Thank you in advance for your support. Bye for now, and God bless.
The Word of Life is translated into approximately 90 different languages and dialects, reaching millions worldwide through print, radio, TV, and other media. There are special versions for children and teens as well, which you can find at livingcitymagazine.com. This podcast has been brought to you by Focolare Media.